Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to Tokyo Comic Attack, is what we're called. I am Oscar, also known as Big Fat Dog Comics. With me today, as always, are Mulele,
Hello.
also known as Mulele Redux, and Chris,
Ew.
also known as Sketchfro. And today we will be talking about the very interesting topic of I believe Mulele had some stuff prepared for us. Or take us away.
Yeah, I don't know if this will be the main topic today, but basically some news items I wanted to go over. First, I wanted to take a moment to update all of our projects. Like, where are we at? What are we trying to do? How far have we come in the past, I guess, month or so since we started this podcast? Does anybody want to go first?
Sure. Why not? I'll go ahead and throw out there first.
All right.
As of right now, I am working on the last chapter for my comic. I have to do the inks for it, and then I'm going to start studying and preparing how to do color scenes for night better and rain better, which is going to be the hardest thing. But then one of my friends is talking to his editor about my comic right now.
Nice.
No promises, but he's probably going to give me some feedback on it. So some information like that.
Is this editor in Japan or in America or where?
Nope, they are in the Americas, the North America.
Okay.
So different point of interest, but yeah, it is something that I guess will give me some good feedback, and I can kind of see what I should do to make some changes for it. But yeah, for the meantime, then I finished today with my new pages, so I took a break, as I showed with our chat earlier and up on Instagram, because my Twitch totally failed today, and I'm very sorry for anybody who went out for that. I was doing a challenge from a channel called Drawfee. Drawfee is a interesting art channel where they take suggestions from people and they make really bad drawings from it, but it's really fun to watch.
Okay.
One of their suggestions was to redraw the images that they drew from like back at like one of their first shows. So there was like a 13-year gap and then like a 5-year gap and things like this. So everyone was doing like these old images, and I was like, oh, you know what? I wonder if I have an old image that I can do. So yeah, I redid an image that I drew back from 2003.
That's some good file management, though. I can never find my old stuff. It always gets lost in a digital moving around.
I have a black box, and I literally have to update it. But it's a 0.5 terabyte that's sitting here secure with a lot of my old images, and then on that is also another copy of everything that I did in like a zip file as well, that's backed up. So it's all of my art's kind of backed up very nicely, just in case.
Nice.
But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm currently just having fun talking with you guys, drawing a bunny girl, and relaxing.
So you're drawing right now?
He's always drawing right now, man. What are you talking about?
This is true. It's just incredulous to me. I can barely hold a conversation and take notes on what we're talking about. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not drawing either, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, didn't mean to like that. Ew.
Drawing is
No, it's
hard.
just
Oh,
been,
no.
the conversation's been really fun, and it's always really nice to talk about art things and other things with people. But at the same time, I have bedroom hands. I just always have like the need of wanting to do something. So yeah, I gotta stay busy.
Sorry, man. You said bedroom hands?
Yeah, better like bedroom hands or like sneaky hands or like always moving hands or like antsy, like kind of a thing.
Okay. I've never heard it called bedroom hands before. Some sort of sexual thing?
It can be applied as that. But I always like to take these kind of phrases and put like a positive spin to them. So something like this is just kind of funny to me, calling it this, because it's like, yeah, I'm in my bedroom and the lights are out and oh, there's a dimly lit screen. My bedroom hands are acting up and it's time to draw a picture. That's me.
Okay.
So
Well, that's
yeah,
Interesting.
that's
yeah. Well,
that's
idle
my
hands.
humor. Don't worry about it.
Idle hands are the devil's plaything, right? So.
I've heard that too.
So
But that one's sexual.
Oscar, how about you? What are you up to?
Not much, but not nothing. I think one of the last times I was translating all these comics and putting them up on Instagram, I kind of put that on hold because I had some fun with little drawing inks and watercolors I found, and I thought it would be a cool idea to give all of those comics I wanted to put up on Instagram a coat of color, because the internet loves stuff in color, and I kind of in a colory mood right now, but that has basically grinded all forms of Instagram uploading to a halt, because that's been kind of slow, and since money in general is kind of slow these days, I guess for everyone, I've scraped together some commissions, so those are also receiving my full attention. Not always stuff I can put on Instagram because it's for that board game I really like, but it's kind of a gray zone how because it's fans making contents for the board game themselves.
Right.
And the guy who made the game is like, I'm just gonna ignore you guys are doing that, and it's fine. As in, I'm just gonna pretend it doesn't exist. So probably not the stuff to show on Instagram and everything too much. I'll maybe see if it's done, if I can sneak a few up there. But other than that, yeah, long term, I'm still planning to continue my conquest to see if I can get my foot further in the door of Koro Koro Comics. My editor actually got back to me. Oh yeah, he's still my editor.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Finally, he was like, yeah, let's get together and make some manga once this whole thing blows over, which is exactly what I intend to do, really.
It must be very comforting for you then now, huh?
Yeah. I was very happy because I was very happy with that progress being made and having like a stepping stone or a first step in the direction of the professional world in Japan, and the pandemic really came and smacked it all down at the I want to be careful at saying the worst possible timing, because I've heard some other people use that phrase where they're like, oh, the pandemic came at the worst possible time. Well, I guess like it came at the worst possible time for me is something millions of people are saying, I suppose. But it wasn't a good time, and I was kind of worried. I guess I was just worried that all the progress I had made there would have been erased, but apparently that's still ongoing. So hope to relight that fire once I have the opportunity. Other than that's basically it for me though.
Nice, very nice. For myself, my goal has been to pitch to an agent, and I've been working on pareidolia for that purpose. Basically, it's my latest, greatest thing. I'm trying to pull out all the stops and make sure that I get everything just the way I want it. And so far, it's going pretty well. I put up the first 4 pages on Instagram. They're black and white samurai stuff. But recently, I've been putting up the other pages on my Patreon. And I think eventually I'll be putting them on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, so people can just kind of see it in general. But I've been doing some more research into pitching to agents, and my original plan was to have like 16 or 20 pages kind of ready to go and throw that in. But people are saying that that's actually a little too much, that it really doesn't need to be much more than 8 pages. So I think I will be ready to pitch in about a month. So by the next check-in, I think I'll be ready to start throwing my work out there.
With 8 pages, you mean? Or?
Yeah, with 8 pages. Technically, I'll have 12, but I think if it's down to such a short number of pages, the black and white pages, the samurai stuff is really only in the beginning of the book, and the rest of it is not that. So I'll be taking 8 color pages, of which I've generated 4, and then sprucing up some of the other material for the pitch around the story and presentation, and of course my pitch letter. And hopefully that'll be ready to send out by next month, unless some catastrophe happens.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Some other catastrophe, I suppose.
Yeah, right. So knock wood in the middle of a pandemic. But yeah, basically that's where I'm at. Hopefully it will come to something sooner rather than later. But from what I understand, sooner means about a year from start to finish, start to inked deal, and then I got another year and change to finish the book. So we'll see if there are any takers. But keep in mind, I am speaking from a point of ignorance here. So if there's anybody listening who's like, no, man, it doesn't take that long, or man, 2 years and you're done with a book, good luck. Yeah, I don't know. It's just what I've been able to glean online from this, because I've never actually pitched a book before. I've always been hired directly by comic book companies.
Yeah.
But
hey,
usually,
always.
Yeah.
As always, Tokyo Comic Attack at gmail.com if you have anything to say.
Absolutely, man. I would love to hear something, not just on my work, but on everybody's, on anything really. But anyway, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was Marvel Comics decided to shut down their digital comics wing. Yeah, and I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard by it, and I'm not entirely sure why. I don't think they've actually said why. But do you guys have any thoughts or feels about it?
Yeah, we were talking about this before, like the whole comic book store versus like online, like digital distribution kind of thing, and how a lot of people are going to have to immediately start going to digital distribution to get all of the comics that they need, and then suddenly it's like, no, we're going to release to some comic book stores so that you can still get the comics that you need. We want to support them. I don't know. It kind of feels like they're going back and forth on this kind of thing, and I don't know what their end game is with all of it. It's just nerve-wracking. Sorry.
I think that there is a lot of doom and gloom in the comics industry right now about the state of shops and the state of Diamond. I understand that Diamond Distributors is supposed to start shipping out comics this month, but I think a lot of people are still very worried about what's actually going to happen here. And people are starting to make a very clear distinction between this is actually only floppies, not graphic novels. Graphic novels have a little bit more power.
I see.
Well, I mean, for the floppy market, the direct market floppies, that's, I'm assuming Diamond's mainly Diamond deals with that. But with graphic novels, you've got a whole bunch of other publishers that have other routes of distribution. So, for example, if you're going through not Marvel, but I don't know, First, Second, or some comic book arm of a novel publishing house. I don't know. Sorry, what do they call it? Publishers.
Sure.
I suppose.
But if you're going through one of those, then you'll have you'll not be going through Diamond, but be going through their distribution system. And so Diamond does have access to those books, but they're not the main distribution system for those books. So I don't know. I still see it as mainly a floppy problem. And the idea that Marvel is going to go digital, but at the same time stop their digital stuff, so everybody has to get their Marvel stuff through Comixology, is just a weird one. As far as I can tell, yeah, it seems like a very weird cost-cutting measure.
About the whole thing, I think first of all, it's a pretty tragic situation, but I do want to make the distinction there that I think it's tragic for creators, comic book shop owners who are losing livelihoods, and fans will not be able to get their content. On the side of businesses, like my heart doesn't really bleed for companies like Marvel or Diamond or whatever, but I think it's very emotional to a lot of people, I assume, because comic book shops are closing down, and you know, the way of life is changing from the way I'm hearing it. Personally, I don't really understand why Marvel is doing the no digital thing. Not sure if it's like a business decision, or I think I heard that they try to spin it as kind of a solidarity kind of thing, which in my opinion I find kind of bullshitty, because I don't see who benefits from it cutting off digital on a non-business basis. I mean, like, how do the creators and how do the consumers benefit from not having digital? Because I feel like a lot of the times, like, concepts like solidarity will always be the horse in front of the cart that is called, you know, business is making money. Marvel doesn't care about your feelings. It's a company out to make money, and if they want to cut digital, it's not because they want to be like lawful good about stuff. They just probably think it's a good business decision.
Are they cutting their digital completely, or is it that they're just moving it to Comixology? I mean, is this?
I'm not sure. Yeah, but if they're moving it to another platform, then what's the use of that anyway?
Well, you can put out content still, and you don't have to manage it.
But the way I originally hear it, the idea was that they would not let digital get it ahead of the analog market, right? Of the physical market. Because people would buy all the books in digital, and then they would be like, oh, we read it all, we're not going to buy physical copies anymore. was the way I originally heard the story. And so if they're now going like, oh, we'll move to another place, then that kind of defeats that purpose. If that is the purpose, after all, like in general, but
perhaps it's just a way for them to kind of circumvent responsibility. They put it onto Comixology. They handle digital stuff. Now, if anybody has a problem with it, they don't have to come to us. We don't need this kind of bad press. Let it go to them. They're the ones handling digital distribution now. We just provide it to them when it's ready. And so for them, PR-wise, they don't have to kind of deal with the fans anymore.
Yeah.
It's out of their hands. I feel that's kind of the reason why they are doing that.
That does sound like the kind of business decision that the cold, calculated business decision that would make more sense than the solidarity spin or whatever they were using in the beginning. But
one of the things I see from this, though, is that Comixology is owned by Amazon. Amazon's owned by Bezos. Bezos is now going to be the first trillionaire by what is it, 2026? I think was the year they put on it, projected. But the idea that the big two, or one of the big two, is going to give up their digital arm to this online shop is kind of strange to me. I understand that it might be convenient, but there's a certain amount of control that I'd like to exercise over my own work. Maybe I'm just a sucker here because, you know, it seems that Comixology isn't that good of a site, isn't that easy of a UI to deal with, and I fucking hate Bezos with a purple passion. This guy's a fucking monster. Yeah, that's how much I hate him.
I'm sure you don't keep him awake at night.
Yeah. No, but I mean, sure, my hatred of him is not going to manifest into anything that he'll ever notice. But the idea of giving anything to Amazon really fucking irks me. So I have nothing on Comixology. I don't sell my books on Amazon, possibly to my detriment, definitely to my detriment, but still, the fact that Marvel is doing this just seems kind of, I guess, just anathema to me. That's really all I've got for it. But
don't really know anything about cosmetology, but I a bit of another angle maybe, but I was reading up on an article in the New York Times that was talking a bit about this, and something interesting that jumped out to me out of the article was that they basically, because they were doing the whole, oh, this is Marvel Comics for all of you who've never seen a comic thing, right? But they basically said something along the lines of, oh no, if Marvel goes down, what will we base all our movies and TV series on? And it just got me thinking about like in the mainstream, the position that Marvel has taken these days, and I feel like in a way it's kind of come to that, hasn't it? I mean, comics are becoming more and more the kind of this is where we base all those Netflix movies and series on, rather than the main product in itself. They're kind of the jump off board for all the spin-off stuff. It's like, oh no, if comics disappear, then we won't be able to sell all these movies and figurines and
my God, we have to think for ourselves and create original IPs and.
Yeah, no, it's just like they're also. It seems like everyone is, or not everyone, or like the real worry is like, oh no, think of all the T-shirts we won't be able to sell. While comics as an actual product on its own didn't seem to be that culturally relevant anymore, other than that, like, oh, Thor, the guy in your movies, on your t-shirts, on your mugs, whose action figure you have, yeah, it's also a comic or something, whatever. No one reads those. Was kind of, yeah. Well, I'm. That's of course not what they said. That's kind of. I'm just continuing my thought here, but what do you guys feel on that? On like where is Marvel at in kind of how important are comics these days, or have comics become overshadowed by all their spin-off products, if we can call it that way?
I don't think they're anything more than spin-off products. Sorry. The original ideas are so old now that you really don't need to read the comic. I mean, there are some good stories that are being told through these things. But really, the movies and the TV shows and the T-shirts, those are the ways that people are going to get these characters, not the comic books. The comic books are a launch pad, a testing area for these ideas. But that's about it for them. I mean, that's for Marvel. They're just a stepping stone to something else. And if Marvel, the comics making arm, goes under, then they can license out those characters to other comic book companies. For example, IDW does Thor, or whatever else does Spider-Man.
Dark
and
Horse. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, it would be very weird to see Dark Horse presents The Amazing Spider-Man, but Disney, I don't think, is nostalgic or passionate about comics. They're very happy with the money prospects of Marvel, but that's about it.
I guess what you're saying, what I guess my question was also, comics as a medium is basically not valued in the end. It's the franchise, it's the characters, but like, people are saying, oh no, if Diamond goes down, and what will happen to comics? But comics as a medium, like the art form of comics or graphic novel, doesn't seem to be the thing that people are worried about, I suppose, as much as oh no, our Marvel universe kind of.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm not really in touch with how. I'm not really in touch with who buys Marvel comics. Exactly. I'm not sure how much of an overlap there is between the Marvel universe, like big Marvel Cinematic Universe fans, and the people who buy the comics. But
as far as who buys these comics, I don't know. When they're talking about the DC decided to put out their comics on Tuesday instead of Wednesday, and people were in an uproar. It's like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, who's in uproar, really?
Well, I mean, I don't care what day the comics come out, because basically in Japan, if I'm going to try and get floppies, they're gonna come by. Well, now they can't come at all because we're not receiving mail from the States. But they're going to come by airplane. They're going to come by ship. They're not going to get to me on the Tuesday that they're released in America. Digital is the only way I can do that. And if they're not going to come out at the same time digitally as they do physically, then it's a moot point. But a good story is a good story. It's not a bad story because it was released on Wednesday. And it just means that I don't go. I mean, if I've got a pull list for my comics at a comic book shop, I'm not going to walk in on the day that those comics come out and say, "Okay, give me my shit right now." I'll wait. So They pull some comics on Tuesday. They pull some comics on Wednesday. Don't really give a fuck. I'll read my comics during the week. But seriously, who reads these comics? I don't know. Fewer and fewer people, it seems.
That's interesting. As I'm kind of thinking about Japan now. Since you mentioned it that way, because I think Wednesday is the time that Shonen Jump comes out in Japan. So changing the day that Shonen Jump comes out would be a huge deal for a lot of people, I think, because everyone lives to the rhythm of the Shonen Jump drums, I suppose. But
hey man, don't fuck with my Shonen Jump.
But the thing I'm thinking of now is how it's interesting that in Japan. Especially since I've been walking around to some of these editors for my pitching my Yonkoma manga, and they would be like, look, we are a magazine for, I don't know, 30-year-old women who sit at home all day and they want to read this kind of stuff. But I feel like in Japanese manga, especially in the printed magazine market, you can basically follow someone all the way from what do you call that? Kindergarten or not kindergarten? I always get my education systems mixed up a little. What do you call shogaku in English?
Elementary school.
Elementary.
From elementary, you have like when you're in elementary school, you read this magazine. You read like Koro Koro or whatever, and then you go to high school, you read Shonen Jump. You go to college, you read, I'm not sure, Evening or like some seinen magazine. And then you turn into a salary man and you only read like pachinko manga or whatever. But
big comic spirits.
But it's such a clearly carved up market. Where like you go from one book to another as you get older, basically, because it's very age focused. While when we mention American comics, I think the three of us are going, who is buying that stuff? Because if I remember, like the way it used to be is like, comics are for kids kind of thing, and that's been pushed back again a lot these days. But I think American comics anyway, they have like the history of they used to be for kids. Now they don't want to be for kids anymore. But it's kind of a gray zone. Some of them, I guess, are for kids and some not. And it kind of depends on, while in Japan, there's like a more clear line, even genres, even the genres, by the way, to have a little linguistic segment in the podcast, I suppose. Basically,
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I've got a little bit of a problem with the for kids angle from a lot of American companies, and specifically when something is labeled for kids, it suddenly gets really, really stupid. Logic goes out the window, and if the story doesn't make sense, why would you label it for kids? Kids are not stupid. Stupid adults think kids are stupid. And if you've ever had a 5-year-old in your life for any significant amount of time, you'll realize very quickly that they can take your logic, wrap it around you, and destroy you with it. Because basically, logic of adults is flawed, and kids can see that.
That's where kids are stupid came from. I think that's like the defense mechanism adults have, because.
Right. So, but this attitude made into an ism for comics, or I guess an escape hatch for bad writing. It's for kids. Yeah, it's just weak.
It's interesting because I feel then when I first discovered as a kid, or as like a youngster, I suppose, discovering Japanese comics, the first thing that really hit me was the amount of blood was there, or like when I heard about stuff like Naruto and everything, is marketed to way, I think, as young as 12 or something.
Uh-huh.
And if you compare it to the stuff that's usually marketed to 12-year-olds in other countries, Naruto and like the shonen manga in general, they get away with like a lot of blood everywhere. Lots of scenes in One Piece and Naruto that they get out a knife and they cut himself to prove their friendship or whatever. That's not the stuff you see in like the European comics that I used to read, the bande dessinée kind of stuff, where it's like, oh, let's go on an adventure, and oh no, a bad guy, and it just kind of like punch him and little yellow stars come out, and that's all. That's it for violence, you know.
You're reading Tauntaun, man. I think
Asterix and all, and
yeah, sure,
Asterix and Obelix.
Yeah, I mean,
there's just a clear difference in tone or like approach to well, mostly the violence, I would say, that I've always found it interesting. Just thought I'd bring it up if you guys have any feelings on that or anything.
Well, you know, Crayon Shin-chan, right? In Japan, it's an afternoon TV show, or at least it was. And although it did cause a couple of problems with some adults back in the 90s, basically in America, that's an adult show, because like when Crayon Shin-chan stretches out his ball sack so it makes the ears of an elephant with his penis,
it's adorable. Google it, damn it.
Yeah, it's meant to be adorable in Japan, and they can show that shit at 5 p.m., 4 p.m. when kids get home from school. But fuck, in America, no.
That's traumatizing. Why would you put something like that on for my kids?
I do wanna go to bat for Crayon Shin-chan here, because I used to watch that stuff on television in the morning, I think.
Yeah, whenever
you're all right with it, I suppose. But he mostly does a butt dance. His signature move is where he puts out his butt. He lowers his pants, he bends over, and he does like the butt wiggle dance. And then his mom gets angry at him. I'm not sure if the ball sack thing, I don't remember as being.
Well, they had the ball sack thing, and in the cartoon they also had 1-inch man.
He does make a little elephant with his wee, but.
Yeah, but you know 1-inch man, right?
I don't, but I don't want to talk about it because I feel it's gonna go against my point of Shin-chan being pure and innocent.
1-inch man is this guy from the neighborhood who dresses up as a superhero. He's got like a 1 and an inch symbol next to the 1, and his superpower is that he has a 1-inch penis. He never shows his penis in the cartoon, but I mean, just the fact that that's him. Shit, the humor is just.
I can't believe that I watched so much of it, and just hearing you talk about it, it's like we watched a different show.
Well, it depends. Like in America, they do cut out some scenes. Like for Sailor Moon, when she transforms, she gets naked for a second, and they reanimated that shit for America.
Yeah, they did. Sailor Moon gets a little too naked, I feel sometimes.
That wasn't my show, so I only heard about it in the news. But
I haven't watched it myself. I only know that they cut out the cross-dressing episodes in the old Pokemon series.
Oh yeah, they did that with Macross as well.
Also, I just
sorry, not Macross, with Robotech. Sorry, different show.
I just found out like a few weeks ago that they weren't originally called Jesse and James in Japanese, and it just shook me for a few hours. I forgot what their names were. Apparently, they were a reference to some old samurai something.
Murasaki and Seijiri. Ah!
It's wrong. It's so wrong. Jesse and James, damn it.
Well, I mean, for Americans, it makes sense. And by the way, awesome freaking villains. I watch Pokemon. I still watch Pokemon to this day. I'm always rooting for Team Rocket, and
OG
I love how
Pokemon is legit.
it was legit. I love that Nintendo came out and is like, no, you should not be you shouldn't be rooting for the bad guys. It's like, well, then why did you make them so likable?
Yeah.
That's your fault. That's your fault. They're good characters. They've had good development. They've that character development, we get into that another time. But regardless, yeah, like I don't know. That just sounds meh to me. I'm sorry. You guys still there?
Yeah. We're here. We're sorry.
Crayon
Sorry,
Shinchan. That's good stuff. No, I was just thinking how far back do you want to go on the derailed train of to finish up a point I was making earlier though. So in Japanese you have the shonen, shoujo, seinen. Maybe everyone knows this. I don't know who listens to this podcast, so whatever. Shonen is basically literally boy, just boy, and shoujo is girl, and seinen will be like I don't think that's gendered. Is that gendered? That'd just be like older
person.
Older person.
But I mean, what I mean is the genres are basically called after their target audience, which I find very interesting. Because you don't have the idea like in America that it's like a comic for kids. No, you have just a genre called kids, and everything that's in the genre called kids, that's for kids, and you have like you have like teenagers or whatever, which I guess they do in books and everything, because you have like child literature, young adult stuff, but they don't do it in comics. That's kind of weird. They should.
I guess it depends on if you're going through mainstream comics or indie comics. Because I remember when I was introduced to the indie comic circle in Phoenix, Arizona, there were a ton of comics that were there that were not safe for work and not safe for children and things like this. And it was like, yeah, that's when. Oh, that was one of those cases when it was like, oh, this is something that's different. And
no, I'm definitely talking mainstream appeal, or like how society views it, kind of deal. Though even in Japan, people seem to be, or at least they use, as far as I know, of the general opinion that if you're I don't know, 40 and you're still reading those silly manga, then what are you doing with your life, kind of deal. Because they will all agree that Akira or whatever is the greatest thing ever, but then at the same time they'll be like, oh, reading manga when you're an adult is a big no-no.
And you want to know what? Those are the same people where I'm like, okay, so when was your last vacation? And where did you go? And what did you do? And those people cannot tell me when they've left their country or when they've left the area or something like this. Those people are, oh, I went to this place and it was nice because it was for a few days and then I went back to work and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. I'm in a foreign country. And sometimes I go overseas and sometimes I go to different areas of the country just because I want to discover something. And then another discussion for another time. Those people are, in my opinion, some of them are dead inside, and they argue that we are the comic readers are whoever we are, uninspired or boring or whatever, because we read comic books. But I argue the very opposite of that one in many cases.
Man,
Amen.
I only read real books.
You don't. You don't.
I read real books too.
Fuck. So throw that back in my face. Like, man, you don't read. Now, someone walked up to a friend and I in a cafe in LA. We were talking about comic books, and they're like, "Man, I only read real books." My friend shut up and just like, "What the fuck did you say?" And I thought he was going to be a fight, but no, he just started talking about how certain graphic novels have won Pulitzer prizes, and that the quality of a book was not determined by how many pictures it had inside. Yeah, it just reminds me of that.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a friend the other day because I finally got through your copy of Watchmen, Mulele.
Okay.
Thanks for that. But I was mentioning how great it is, and he's like, "Yeah, but it's so many." He was like, "Yeah, but it's almost like reading a book. It's just too many pages," and that's when it kind of hit me. And it's like, oh well, I suppose that's why they call it a graphic novel, because you're basically reading a novel. It's literature. It's literature at that point, I guess.
But I think that book is a little bit different from a lot of other books. I mean,
because it does have
there's just so much
sections that's just text, no pictures. It's like 3 or 4 pages of just like straight up.
Yeah, but I mean
text to get through.
It's much more. It's I don't want to get into like a review of Watchmen, but I mean, it's
definitely
really interesting.
At a later date, want to consider that one, but
sure. I mean,
we've already made too many promises on this episode.
we can throw our 2 cents into the well that is Watchmen, but I mean, it's just interesting in its concept, interesting in its execution. It goes all over the place, and it's not shy about what it's doing. It's just very well done. There are forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. Anyway, yeah.
Let me sum up my main point. If we don't do the Watchmen episode, I'm just gonna leave it here. That Simon and Garfunkel song in the movie, it was stupid and I didn't like it. that threw me out of the movie completely. It was like, all right. And I read that scene again in the book, and it's like proper. Well, yeah, it's a proper scene. Damn it. I don't know, but I do see what they were trying to do there, I guess.
I've never compared the film to the book, really. I just kind of watched them or read them independent of each other, and it's like, okay, as a film, it's fine. As a book, it's great. And that's kind of where I leave it. I understand that I'm looking at the interpretation of Alan Moore's work with the Watchmen film. It is not Alan Moore. Alan Moore did not say, yes, this is the thing that I wanted to make. Because no, he made the thing that he wanted to make, and that was the end of it.
But I think the author tried to hit the same beats as Watchmen, because there's a lot of musical references and stuff in it, and a personal theory of mine also is there's this whole section where this kid reads like his old comic of like a shipwreck guy that is. I'm not sure if there's a deeper meaning there, but I think it's basically a love letter to like that. I'm not sure. I think that genre has a name, like a survival comic or whatever that was popular in those kind of magazines way back when, and I think that was just their excuse to go like, remember those kind of things. Let's just put one of those in there for like
I don't think that's quite the way Alan Moore operates. He's like, let's put one of those in there. Remember this?
No, that's not what I mean. But I mean like it felt like, no, I'm not coming at it from that angle. It's just it felt that there was, what I'm trying to say is there was a lot of love put into those segments, that it was clear that they weren't just there for a technical purpose, that
Yeah.
you could see that whoever put that part in had a real love for the source material of those kind of stuff. And I feel that a lot of the songs are like that as well. So I think that when they made the movie, they took the same approach, only the director was like, wow, I love this Simon and Garfunkel song. I don't hate the song, but
who was the director? McG?
not sure. I never remember. I never remember director names, except for the really big ones. So I'm not sure on that one, but I think some of the, especially on the musical directions, they try to take the idea of the Watchmen book, but then kind of the idea is the same, but instead of the choices of Moore and again, can't remember all the names. Whoever.
Yeah, the director was Zack Snyder, and basically, he has his style, he has his thing, but I don't think necessarily that Watchmen is his best work, and I don't necessarily agree with some of the choices that he made in some of those scenes.
They nailed Rorschach though. That's something I still find pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's all right, but they didn't quite nail the ending.
No, fuck the ending. But I don't think the whole "you're locked in with me" thing, is that in the comics? Nah, that comic is way too big.
Yeah, it's in the comic. But
anyway, that was strong. But anyway, we should get back to whatever we were talking about.
I don't know. I think we lost the plot on that one.
Yeah.
There was one last thing I wanted to talk about in the news, which was the COVID-19 situation in Japan. I had a bit of a theory that I was working on, but my girlfriend just kind of blew it out of the water when she gave me some correct numbers. So just for the city of Tokyo, which is about 12 million people in population, not including all of the surrounding areas that kind of make up the bulk of the workforce in Tokyo. Just 12 million properly living in Tokyo. There were, on Wednesday, 10 new coronavirus cases. Thursday, there were 30. And today, I thought there were 50. But in fact, there are not 50. There are 9. So, I mean, 9 out of 12 million. New York has a population of 8 million, and they're talking about 3,000 deaths a day. What?
Yeah, that's harsh.
Actually, that might not be for New York. That might be for the entire country. But anyway, the bulk of it is in New York, or at least they're the hardest hit state. But comparatively, Japan is doing much, much better. Countrywide, we have just under 200 deaths at the time of recording this podcast. What's today? The 15th of May?
16.
Now the 16th. 15, yes.
I guess it is after midnight, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
But my theory was that 2 weeks ago it was Golden Week, which was a big holiday. And people were just at the breaking point of, we can't stay inside anymore. We've been inside for 4.5 weeks, so we gotta start going outside. And that there would be an uptick, but the uptick, 10 on Wednesday, 30 on Thursday, and now 9 on Friday, kind of means my theory is bullshit. So it kind of feels, and I did go down to, I did go downtown. I went to Kichijoji today. Some shops are beginning to open up again. A lot of people are going out again. I went to the park, and in the park, signs everywhere saying, "Hey, if you're jogging or walking in the park, please wear a mask, stay away from other people, and leave in an hour. Don't stay longer than an hour."
You guys do go on. I just need to step out for a second here.
Understood.
Everything seems to be very, very mild. People are starting to return back to normal. If there are no more than a total of 70 cases of new infections in 7 days, like average of 10 or fewer per day for a week, then Tokyo will open up again. That's their thing. That's why everybody's looking at this going, okay, so 10 on Wednesday, 30 on Thursday, 9 on Friday. We're doing well. Possibly in the next week or two, they'll start to open up. Of course, last Thursday, a lot of other prefectures opened up. I don't know about Yokohama or about Kanagawa, where you live. How is it over there?
The numbers wise, I have not been focusing on too much. I've just been noticing that some businesses are opening up. Population outside, like commerce, has been starting to build a little bit. People used to see some people outside going to restaurants, things like that. So, I mean, there is a bit more of life happening around us, which, again, is not a bad thing. But at the same time, like, I guess there are still a lot of places that are under heavy restrictions for opening hours or like just being open at all. Like the mall here at the station is not open. You can go shopping downstairs at the supermarket, but once they close, like they close, and there's other like stringent procedures for the workers, it seems, as well as the people going in there. So, I mean, there's that. But I do know that Taiwan has had that case where they've had, what, 0 and 6?
And
for
0
them,
and 6.
0 new cases in the last 6 days.
Oh, okay. I see. Sorry.
No, that's all right.
Interesting.
So at least going off of other countries and news I hear from them, like we're starting to get to points where we can believe.
Okay.
I'll say it like that.
Okay. Although the university that I work for has decided that they're going to stay closed for the rest of the semester, and that we'll all be teaching from our homes, remote working, I guess. Yeah, so it doesn't matter when the lockdown ends as far as my job is concerned. I'm like, nah, stay home until September. Yeah,
but,
I mean,
you have a
it
job,
could be worse.
Right?
Yeah, it could be much worse.
No. I mean, my friend right now is complaining because he's doing online classes for his university, but his instructors have just become super lazy because, again, they don't have the experience with the online systems. And so the instructors are like, I'm not doing any Zoom classes or anything like this. You have to read these chapters and learn all of this stuff, and then I'm going to be giving a test on it later on. And it's like, wow, no interactivity, no teaching. Like, fuck, man. Excuse me. Then you also have some other instructors where they're like, yeah, I'm holding a Zoom class, and everyone has to be here at 7 or 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they teach nothing. Absolutely nothing. And it's just garbage waste of time. And I feel so bad because people are paying for this kind of thing.
Yeah. There's some interesting things about the rules. I mean, I'm an independent contractor at my university, so according to the law in Japan, as an independent contractor, my company can tell me when my class is scheduled, but they can't really tell me where or how to teach my class. And so basically, there's like, okay, the kids are going to show up over there. Go for it. And that's it. That's my instructions. Like, oh yeah, it's an output class, so we expect, since we have an input class where people read books and watch movies and blah blah blah, that you'll help them practice their English. That is basically the job, but nothing beyond that. And you know, that actually suits me quite fine. I can experiment a lot, and I can do a lot of interesting stuff. For example, show not Ren and Stimpy, sorry, Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty to my class and make them discuss the finer points of this very entertaining show. But basically, when it comes to teaching from home, yeah, I'm not going to do a Zoom class, but I do want lots of interaction. So I'm trying to do other things to kind of take up the slack. Teaching 13 kids on a Zoom thing is not tenable, at least not in my mind. So no.
Someone's picking up the mic.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and see if this is the one. This is gonna be the rest of the event. We'll see. We'll see what comes knocking. What did I miss?
We were talking about
curriculum and classes, university
stuff, and remote teaching. Yeah, we've devolved into another podcast.
The Eikaiwa podcast.
Yeah, something like that.
Eikaiwa hour.
So that was it for the news, man. Do we have anything else to discuss today?
Recommendation corner.
What did I recommend to you guys just the day before? His name is Ethan Becker on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
I've been watching a little of that too.
That's gold. I really like his stuff. Although for all the boxes he makes, he suddenly put up a video like, don't draw boxes. Like what?
Yeah.
that seems to be his style in general. Just
yeah.
I think in the beginning, like that was his thing, and you're very much right because you'll see it very, very often. And then later, at some point, he's just like, "Don't you ever draw the boxes?" And it's like, "Huh?" And if you don't follow it with the timeline, it is very confusing. But I think he learned that wedge shape is more beneficial for like more dynamic poses and stuff like that, as he got different jobs as well. So I think that's just a bad timing thing because you're totally right. I went back to his earlier videos and I'm like, that's a box. He lied to me.
Do take it from the top on this guy. What is his channel about? Why should people go check it out?
He's giving lessons on art.
Yeah, and I like them. They're very good. Like breakdowns. He looks at certain famous artists online and other artists, or idealisms, techniques, things like this, and kind of shows you like, here's how I would do it. It's not like the pretty thing, but this is gonna teach you to start drawing more and start practicing better so you can work to make your own illustrations and other pieces of artwork. So I like that about it.
I also think he's just kind of riffing on art teachers in general. I think we've all had that art teacher who's like constantly contradicting themselves and yelling at the kids for no apparent reason. I don't know, frustrated with the world because they're teaching and not doing, whatever the case. But yeah. I think he's just having fun with that a little bit.
I would definitely call it. I had a good word. Edutainment is a word.
Yeah, that's a word.
He has that crazy YouTuber energy that prevents you from getting bored while watching the video, while actually giving some pretty decent pointers. He's just giving it in a way that keeps you on your toes, kind of. I like it. I still have to dive a little deeper into his channel, but so I'm not sure about the actual art tips he gives because I didn't get too deep into his videos yet. But I like his style, and he does seem to know what he's talking about, and he references his 5 years with like the big guys. What's that, Disney? Couple of movie companies and everything.
Yeah, he worked on Voltron. What else did he work on? Did he do Steven Universe as well? I don't remember everything off the top of my head. I'm sorry. But yeah, he does have a bit of relevant experience.
So it's not just a random guy being smug on the internet. He's smug with proper. He has a proper pedigree for smugness, I suppose.
Yeah, there's reason for his smugness.
No, he definitely knows what he's doing. I quite like that, though.
Yeah. And it's a breath of fresh air in the teach how to draw channels, I suppose.
Yeah. How about you, Oscar? Anything to recommend?
Shall I go into my Evangelion rant or?
No.
No? I don't really have anything else.
Man, we're an hour into the podcast. We're getting ready to wrap it up. We're at recommends, and if you want to recommend Evangelion, yeah, okay. But beyond that,
yeah, I watched it again. Had a really long speech about why it's good. Let me do a quick recommendation of Evangelion though.
Okay.
It was the anime that got me into Japan and everything connected to it, basically. And it is a robot anime, but one of the things I wrote in my pitch here is it does to robot anime what Watchmen did to superhero comics. It deconstructs the whole thing mainly by taking the pilot-robot relationship and it's making it no longer power fantasy. Normally it's about boy gets in the robot, kicks ass, and it's amazing, right? And there's no, and the idea of the robot is you get into the big robot, you beat up a bunch of usually other robots, your arm gets cut off or whatever. There's no, the sense of danger is minimized because the robot is fighting, not you. And Evangelion takes all of this, and first of all, the pilot does not want to be in the robot. There is no quest for glory. There is no you're automatically super good at it. The idea is that when you get into the robot, it physically links you so that if the robots get hurt, the pilot gets hurt. So
well, you have the sensation of it. You feel.
Yeah, they don't physically get hurt, but like there's a stimulus response. So yeah, you feel the pain basically, and it's very visceral. The robots bleed too, so the robots have blood. The pilots feel the pain, it takes the whole robots punching each other and takes it to like a very real place. And it's because it's a very monster of the week. It goes with the tradition of like it's also very Ultraman inspired. Apparently, the team that worked on it also worked on Ultraman. Like monster shows up, you gotta fight it. They also have the Ultraman time limit because the robots have like they basically have to be plugged in at all times, and once the energy cable that's feeding him is cut off, and it's always cut off for some reason or another. They only have 3 minutes, kind of like how Ultraman only could stay for 3 minutes on the planet or something like that, which I didn't really catch once I watched it when I was a kid. But that's basically a huge homage of it, or basically just taking the whole Ultraman timer thing and making it their own. But yeah, don't want to go too long here, but it just it breaks with the tradition of the whole savant pilot thing, where like a guy gets in a robot and is like, oh, I know everything. One of my favorite scenes rewatching it is basically they send out the robots are called the Evangelion, so they send out Evangelion, and the moment it gets so they come up from under the earth, and it comes up, it immediately gets shot in the chest, and they have to pull it down and repair it, and the guy's like screaming because he's a kid with no combat experience, and that's what happens. But that's not what happens in every robot anime up until that point. So Evangelion, I feel, was the groundbreaking one because it kind of took a long hard look at all these established tropes and kind of went like, yeah, no, this is not how giant robot fighting works, and it really upped the stakes by just making it so emotionally and physically brutal. You know, the fights they're hard on the pilots and on the robots because the robots bleed, the pilots feel pain. The whole aspect of emotional trauma is a big theme in the series in general, I feel. It's hard to explain, but it's like there's a lot of deeper themes in Evangelion that always really spoke to me even now, and it's very connected to the pilots and like how they view the world. I want, like, I have in my notes here, every character has a very profound loneliness to them, and it's all about how they connect to people and can we as individual people, like wrapped up in ourselves, reach out and connect to other people, and told through the medium of a basically monster of the week robot anime. And yeah, it's why do we get back in the robot knowing it will hurt us? Why do we keep trying and reaching out? And it goes to a lot of deep places to make you think, and that's what really drew me into it. But like I said before we started, I was talking about it a bit, how I started watching again for the first time in, God, so many years, and I was immediately back into the place that drew me into it in the first place, the heaviness of everything, and the theme, and how the inner world and the psychology of the characters is examined. And then there's this stuff where it's just straight up 90s anime harem manga, kind of like, naked girl in my living room, oh no, kind of. And it's just
picks up right back where he started.
Yeah, it did not age very well, I feel, personally. I'm like, I'm not at the point in my life anymore where because if you're 13 yourself and you kind of know girls are a thing, but kind of, then this is the stuff made for you, basically. It's like, I wish I was the boy who kept bumping into girls in the shower, but once you grow a bit older, that's like there's it's not that appealing to just bump into women you don't really know in the shower. It's just more awkward than exciting. And so a lot of that stuff kind of feels awkward now rewatching it, but it's funny how as you grow older you kind of see things in a new light, I suppose. So because I wanted to say it's so good everyone should watch it, but it's still very anime to the point where I think that if you really don't like anime and some of the tropes, because it takes a lot of tropes of the giant robot genre and turns them on its head and does really interesting things with it. But on the other hand, it has started a lot of tropes and uses a lot of tropes, mainly in like the romance stuff with like um, just one boy, and for some reason his life is surrounded by all these beautiful women that somehow never end up getting naked in front of him for all kinds of really elaborate reasons that it's fan service. There's a lot of fan service in there, and if you don't like fan service, that's a complete turn off to you. Um, then you might miss out on what is a really good classic. I'm not sure I'm selling it well, but Evangelion, it's good. Chris, help me out here.
Throw me under the bus. Yeah.
As the one person here who has never seen a single anything of Evangelion.
Uh-huh.
I've convinced you, right? Do you want to see it now?
Yeah, it's in my Netflix queue. Is what I can say. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger on that this week, but because I'm a busy man with many things to do. Mm-hmm. I'm an adult, but the hearing them mess with tropes is kind of an appealing prospect. I got to see how they do it. And naked anime girls don't bug me that much. Although I have to admit, you lost me a little bit with the bumping into girls in the shower, strange girls in the shower. I've not had that experience, so
yeah, me neither.
I can't really say that it would be displeasing or boring to do that.
That's not what I mean. I'm sure. No, it's just that
I don't know what you mean. What am I wrong here? Did you not say that?
It's more or less just like the crazy situations in which the characters get themselves into is just kind of seen as unnatural, and like far-fetched. And so it's kind of like that would never happen, but oh my God, I would want it to happen to me. Being the younger teen or young adult who's watching this and kind of getting into it, which then as you grow older, you probably have less of those desires because, you grow up, you kind of experience more things in your life and you don't really need that kind of thing to happen. Am I kind of getting what you mean then, Oscar?
Yeah. Basically, I guess what I was tiptoeing around is they're all 14 years old, and naked 14-year-olds is more appealing when you're 14 yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I used to watch that stuff when I was 13 myself, and I had a huge crush. I had my first anime crushes on all the characters and everything. And watching it again, being older, I just feel a little removed from it, or something is just like, because it definitely caters to an audience that is very sexually inexperienced. The main character is very very inexperienced and awkward, and it kind of works best if you're at a place like that in your life yourself. So the bumping girls in the shower thing, what I mean is it's all just so like awkward and everything. Because they just don't know how to, like most of the characters don't really know how to deal with people, let alone girls. So it just keeps bumping into these. He keeps being set up in these pretty erotic situations, or like they're naked or whatever, and he'll be like, "Oh, I kind of like this, but I don't know how to deal with this whatsoever." So it's like it's exciting and confusing and everything at the same time, and that's kind of that resonates a little less with me, being older, because I guess it doesn't confuse me that much anymore. It's just like
Oscar's got more experience in his life, so
Yeah.
he knows how to handle the situation. It never happened to him.
I'm perfectly willing to say on this podcast that since being the big difference between 30-year-old me and me now is I've had sex, people. Yeah, I know. And I do feel that does change a little in the viewing, because I really didn't, as much as I loved it. There is just this huge over 10-year gap of me watching it the first time and finally rewatching it, because I actually went back to it once they made the remake movies. I watched the first remake movie when it came out, but I think there was too many. They did some 3D stuff with the robots, and I'm like, no 3D robots, never, and kind of dropped it until there was like a Netflix special last month or something, and they put them up for free, and I finally gave it another chance, and I was just sucked back into it. Just wanted to give a small pointer about that, by the way. There is a lot of Evangelion stuff out there at this point. I think I would still recommend watching the original series in the original order if you have the time. It's a bit of a weird mess because which anime isn't, but the original series is 23 episodes, and the 23rd episode is basically a cop-out episode that doesn't resolve anything. And well,
yeah.
Opinions may matter, but let me do the entire pitch first, and then I'll
keep going.
So then they made the first movie, which is basically retells the entire 23 episode story in a digestible hour or a little more. And then they made the second movie, which is the end to the story they've been setting up all the way, because the last episode was kind of removed from everything, was building up to that point. And then the second movie kind of takes it from where it was built up and kind of, it's called The End of Evangelion, and it basically ends it. Evangelion was done there until not sure what year. They started making the remake movies, which are, I think, actually a shot-by-shot remake of the old series. And some of the stuff, I must admit, I didn't think I would ever speak such blasphemy, but they did pretty good job in remaking some of it. Some of the visuals. For example, there's one scene in the old series where the Evangelion is in a simulation, and in the old series it's just like the robot standing in like a VR room. But in the remake they had like, it has its armor removed, and it has like these weird sensors on its eyes, and it's a very interesting visual. So they took some interesting ideas and went just a little further with it. But story-wise, at a certain point in the story, they just kind of go another direction and completely turn into their own thing. That is, I haven't seen all of it yet, but it kind of branches, and I think the creator said something along the lines of, this is no longer a remake, this is like its own thing, kind of parallel universe kind of style. Didn't quite get through all the movies before the free Netflix thing, and it, I think, was free on YouTube. But since I'm not sure where that story is going, I think the last movie was supposed to come out this year, but was I think stalled a little because of the pandemic. But I think I would let's say I personally would still recommend just going to the old series and starting from there. Well, watch the old series. The first movie is just a recap, so you can skip that one. Watch the end of Evangelion. Be prepared to have your mind blown a little, because that movie is heavy. I remember finding that, buying that, and just like, I'm gonna watch this anime movie, this movie of this anime I found, and just like in the middle of a sunny Sunday, I put that on, not knowing what was ahead of me, and that stuff. It's such a weird movie that it's. I'm trying to think of another movie to compare it with. It's like putting on one of those old heavy classics, one of those movies that kind of fucks you up a little, and it definitely fucked me up. As in, if you're unprepared for it, it's like, wow, that was not just another episode. It's really good.
I kind of feel like you're overselling it at this point.
Oh, probably. I love Evangelion, man. I cannot do but oversell it.
Yeah, I'm beginning to not want to watch it anymore.
Well, that would be a great pity, because it's good.
All right, I will try the first episode. If it agrees with me, I may try the second.
Anyway,
all you can do.
What do you want to add to that, man?
All I have to say is this. Evangelion is a processed animation for me. I had to watch the entire thing 2 times. The first time was just for enjoyment. The second time was to dissect it and to understand the references, the characters, the story, the plot, and things like this. I liked what was there. I really enjoyed getting in depth with the Evas and the angels and the battle that's been happening in this world. The last movie, 3.3, confused the hell out of me, though it was entertaining to watch. Very confusing. But it's super entertaining. If you're right, it's not your stereotypical, I'm getting into a robot and I'm going to be empowered. You're not Shiro Amada from Gundam. You are a scared 9-year-old being thrusted into the world of like fighting dogs and chickens in a ring, and people are betting on you. This is not like your mom and pop kind of thing. This is like a dark world sort of thing. So there are things that are going to take you by surprise. There are things that's going to scare you. And there are things that you're not going to agree with. You're going to be angry at the main character. You're going to be mad at him for not doing certain things. But at the same time, it's because how would you really be if that situation happened to you? You're blessed with, oh, he's doing it wrong. This is how I would do it. But really, would you? Kind of a question. So yeah, that's I guess my end of it. It's fun to watch. It's nice to dive into, but just be prepared. You are going to hate the main character, and that's okay, because he is representing how people normally would take situations.
Yeah, one last thing I guess I want to say about it is it has this interesting world, because there are these beings called angels, and they come in a monster of the week format. But what I think is interesting, that while like the lore or the story behind this world and what are these beings, why are they attacking, and all of that, they kind of get into that, and like some of the show's big mysteries are revealed. But I feel like most of that takes a back seat to just taking a look in the psyche of the main characters. And I feel that's what the show, that is like the main idea of Evangelion. It's not the show where it's like, oh, aliens are attacking. What's up with that? What's the alien culture? What is it doesn't really I'm not sure I remember how many answers they actually give, but I felt like that's not the main point, even though there's like a huge fandom, analyzing every little trace of background information or whatever, um, which is, if you're into that, Evangelion has a lot of stuff that's left fake or that you can dig into, but I think they really get into the psychology of the characters, um, which of course has been since then in robot anime done. There's a lot of other anime that try to do that, I think, but it all started with Evangelion, and as far as I know, it's the best executed one. Um, yeah, it has a very original world and feeling, and I think that the like you said, Mulele, the best way is just to catch a bit of it and see if it resonates with you.
Kind of feeling like I already saw it, but yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Well, there's pitching stuff and there's pitching stuff to you, man. I feel those are two different sports.
I don't know, man. I feel that there's a discussion that you want to have here that I'm just not ready for. But yeah, I'll give it a shot, and we'll approach this from a different direction if I have a lot to say about it. But
no, I just wanted to take a minute and talk about that show I still love after all those years.
Nice.
And if anyone sits through my annoying overselling rambling and is like, all right, I'll watch the goddamn thing, please do.
Oh my god. Oh my god. There's a button to flip your selected object in Clip Studio Pro. Holy oh my god. I'm sorry. There's a button to flip your object. Not flip your canvas, but flip your object. Sorry. I just blew my mind right there. I'm sorry.
Where's the button for anyone who's I'm interested.
After you do Command T or Control T to select your object, off to the left side there's the tool properties, and right at the top there are 5 buttons, and one is to reset, one is to flip horizontally, one is to flip vertically, confirm it, or cancel. It's right there. I was gonna spend 5 minutes re-editing to make sure these 2 characters come off the same size. I don't have to do that. There's a button that just flips it for you.
Hey. Who said we never everybody. Teach anything on this show, right?
Yeah. Sorry. While we were talking, I have done 2 small character illustrations of my characters. I'm gonna put it up on Insta now, but I was just, I just blew my own mind. I'm sorry. Oh yeah.
This week I saw the Clone Wars, the final season.
Right.
Yeah. I have to say that, and I told you guys this earlier, that this is my 3rd favorite movie at this point. It's 12 episodes. The first 8 episodes are so-so. They're not great. They're kind of the same as what I remember the Clone Wars being before, when I was watching the early seasons. But the last 4 episodes kind of cut together like a 2-hour movie. And basically it takes place over the same period of time as episode 3. But it's from a completely different angle, from a different character's perspective. And it is incredibly good, and it is a little bit more what I would expect to happen during an Order 66. It was gold. So for me, the best movies are Empire, Star Wars, and now this. Jedi never quite did it for me, and it actually recontextualized the episodes 2 and 3 so much so that I went back and started watching those again, and actually find a new kind of joy in watching them. There are still cringy parts in those films, of course, but I mean, there's more to it now. And I actually found some place in current Star Wars for me to enjoy. I mean, The Mandalorian's okay, but this was really fucking good. I highly recommend it to everybody. Just those last 4 episodes, as long as you know who Ahsoka is and you know that Darth Maul didn't die in episode 1, you're good.
So those first fun. 8 or whatever are skippable, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I think they kind of tie up some things from previous seasons, but I mean, I kind of missed season 6, and I'm not sure if I saw season 5. There was a certain point where I just kind of like, I'm busy, and just didn't get to it. Also, it was hard to get a hold of it because, you know, being in Japan, I wasn't going to shell out for the DVD collection, or for Disney DX or whatever it was on over here. But the basic idea of the Clone Wars, you know, from episode 2, and you know how that ends in episode 3 if you've seen those films. And the thing that people probably don't know is that Anakin had an apprentice who is Ahsoka Tano, and she starts out kind of shit as a character.
The Twi'lek girl, right? Sir?
I don't know the name of her race, but yeah. And she becomes this really amazing, interesting person. And those last 4 episodes, I mean, the last 8 episodes, she's there. It's about her and her journey. And they allude to some really interesting shit that happened in previous seasons that I didn't see. I'm not sure if I want to go back and actually look for that stuff, but it is very curious. But the way they run through the first 4 episodes, it's kind of like, okay, well, you know, what is she doing here? Why this story? Why are these characters important? And it leads directly into the last 4 episodes, which are just amazing. Darth Maul as a villain, given proper time and dialogue consideration, is amazing. The saber fights were incredible. It was everything I wanted from a Star War. That's it. That's all I got to say.
A Star War.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, though. I'm happy to hear that because I love Ahsoka, and I do want that to be kind of expanded on. And I like getting back into Star Wars and like rediscovering why I like the magic. So having another reason to rewatch Gesundheit, having another reason to watch Star Wars and see the connections between it would be fun. So I really want to like sit down with that eventually.
Yeah. It'll be there when you're ready. But it is really, really good. Yeah.
I wasn't really feeling the 8 first lukewarm episodes, but if they're kind of skippable,
just if you really just want to get to the shit, the last 4 episodes, it's fucking gold. If you have any questions, You can hunt around on the internet and find the answers, or you can just ask me or ask Chris. But basically, the plot is very, very clear from the giddy up. The characters, if you know them, then it works. But the highlights are Ahsoka and Darth Maul. They were both amazing. And the story was pretty good. I did enjoy that story as just a 2-hour, okay, what's the goal? How are we going to get there? And how do we leave it? Yeah.
So long as they take you on a nice ride, then I think why not, right? But
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. People keep shouting Dave Filoni's name, and with good reason, man. He wrote all of this, and he did a lot of work on The Mandalorian as well. But considering this stuff versus the Disney trilogy, the sequel trilogy, was it 7, 8, and 9?
Yeah,
those movies are fucking garbage. And when you watch Clone Wars, you understand why. You understand what Star Wars was, what it could be, but what Kathleen Kennedy kept it from being. I understand, Chris, you're a bit of a Episode 9 apologist, but you can apologize a little bit harder on that one.
No apologies here. Look, I enjoyed what I enjoyed, and I know that a lot of people didn't like it, and it's okay, to each their own. But we'll let me give it a few more months, another year or so, get back to it, watch it again, and I'll see how I feel then.
You know, I tried to watch it again after you talked about liking it, after you watched it a second time, and I got as far as the Rey using the Force to float rocks around herself in some sort of
right in the beginning. Damn.
Yeah, 10 minutes in, I'm like, fuck this movie, and I just couldn't get past it. It was just cringe on top of cringe, and it just, after the Emperor scene, after the opening crawl, and the only thing I enjoyed was the hyperspace skipping. That was it. And basically, cool. Yeah, but also the thing at the beginning where it's like, oh, we've got the secret message we got to get. Oh, get this giant ass cable and hook it up to R2. Okay, we got the data. Let's go. What does the data say? The Emperor's back. That's it.
Yeah, that's all they wanted.
Yeah, but that's what you need, that giant ass cable, and you couldn't like shout it across the universe.
I forget what episode it was, but also spoilers. But there was also this whole subplot thing about C-3PO having to sacrifice himself, and then I guess he didn't or something.
That was episode 9, man. You were 9. In the theater with us watching that shit. You don't remember it?
See, I remember it. I just don't remember the point of it. Because they have this whole setup, and then this whole build up to him like, oh, I'm gonna have to delete myself. Goodbye. And then it's like, I guess I'm not. And everyone is like, oh, sure, fuck you, or whatever. This whole hating. You know what? I'm just gonna say, after that trilogy, I was ready to be done with Star Wars. If it wants to drag me back for 4 more episodes.
Well, apparently
fine, but I'll be looking at my watch the entire time.
I think a couple of minutes in you'll forget about that. But who is it? One of the guys from the writers' room at Star Wars, or the writers whatever at Star Wars, said, it's whatever. If you didn't like this trilogy, it doesn't have to be canon. Just it's whatever you want it to be, and who cares? It's all made up anyway. People went nuts. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? That this isn't canon if we don't want it to be. but basically, it reduces Star Wars to a mishmash of nothing, because nothing matters. And if you suddenly declare everything non-canon and then say it doesn't matter anyway, choose and pick what you want, well, then there are no stakes.
Yeah, no, but I do feel that I do get what he's I think I do get him in a certain points where people have become obsessed with the canon more than like if it's a good story but it's not canon, then people will not be interested, kind of thing.
Well, look,
Kind
man,
of like take the idea is the Solo movie, basically. The Solo movie, and all it tried to do was add bits of lore and shit everywhere without being a good movie. And I feel like that's what Star Wars has become. Star Wars has become this this exercise in just picking up old parts of the old movies and turning them around and being like, oh, because actually I still want to watch your recommendation there, but the part that makes my hair stand up a little bit is when you say that stuff like this really explains like this about the old movies or anything. That's the part of Star Wars I'm so done with. Making new stuff to explain the old stuff.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't explain anything, and this is the point. Don't get me wrong here. It doesn't explain anything. It runs parallel to it and shows us a different perspective of an event that happened in another movie. Kind of like Rogue One, and I think that's one of the reasons why Rogue One is actually generally liked.
I haven't seen Rogue One yet, though.
It's not a bad film. It's got flaws, but it's not bad.
Apparently.
But this one is actually really fucking good. It doesn't have flaws and shows some of the best of Star Wars. And that's what I'm saying. It doesn't run on nostalgia. It points at an event and says, okay, but this is what happened with these characters over here at that time. And I appreciate it that way. That is fine. It kind of did the same thing in Endgame or in Back to the Future 2, where you're seeing the same event from different angles.
Because like with Star Wars, it's like actually the same as I was saying rewatching Evangelion. It's like you watch it once or you watch it a few times when you're young and you love it, and you grow up remembering that you love it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch it again and it's like, how well does it stand up? I don't think I was like the rest of the world. I was gonna revisit the old Star Wars trilogies when the new ones started coming out. I don't think I got through all of them, but I kind of would be interested in going back and seeing how the old stuff, if it still connects with me. Because that's what I thought was interesting about Evangelion, that it still managed to connect with me despite being at a new point. Because watching the new movies it's kind of hard, because everyone's always comparing them to the old ones, but the old ones were great at that time. Like when watching it as a kid, it was the best stuff ever. While watching parts of the Han Solo movie, actually, the part where they do the great train robbery in space was the part where I was like, you know what? If I had seen this as a kid, I'd probably have the same reaction to just a well cinematography. I would say like well put in
cinematography.
Cinematography was good enough that it's like it's flashy, it flows well, it has all these science fiction elements. I would have loved it as a kid, despite the rest of the movie not being there to support it. I think. Kind of forgot where I was going there, but I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think I just want to revisit Star Wars, the old stuff first, and then I'm not rewatching the new trilogies, but then rewatching some of the new stuff that's good now, and because I think it's interesting when you say that when you rank let's call it a movie. What's it called again? The Clone Wars.
Yeah, the Clone Wars season 7.
Yeah, when the season 7's on, when you rank it against in the same pantheon as the old Star Wars movies. Yeah, I guess my question would be, when did you last watch the old Star Wars movies?
Empire Strikes Back, I watched, it's about 2 years ago, maybe. I mean, I'll pull that movie out and show it to someone who hasn't seen it before. Like my girlfriend hadn't seen it, so I showed it to her, and she's like, "Oh, that's a good movie." It's like, "Oh, do you want to watch another one?" She's like, "No, I hate science fiction." But she says it every time. It's like, "I hate science fiction," but she watched Blade Runner, loved that. She watched Empire Strikes Back, loved that, and there's a couple others that she liked that, but she'll still say no, not my thing. She loved Breaking Bad, will not admit it. Loved Seven, will not admit it. I mean, she's real tough with that. She's like, "Oh yeah, they're great. I'm not going to recommend it to anyone," and it leaves a bad taste in the mouth. It's like, what? Come on. It's a suspense thing. The only one that I showed her that she really, really did not like was Pulp Fiction. But anyway, I'll show any of these films to anybody at any time, and I watch a lot of this stuff with them, kind of, gauging their reaction and also just enjoying it myself. And there's a lot of stuff that I really still do enjoy. Fight Club, not so much. Maybe it hasn't aged as well as I had hoped, but there's a whole other discussion there. But anyway, Gesundheit.
I think my problem is I started by rewatching Star Wars, as in the first one, A New Hope.
Yeah.
I'm sensing it's not on any of your lists there. How do you feel about the New Hope?
It's number 2.
Wait,
for me, it's
do the list again.
Empire Strikes Back, A New Hope, and then the I don't know what to call it, the Clone Wars end film.
The end of
the end of the Clone Wars. The end of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, the end of the Clone Wars. Yeah, I mean, it is the final season, and it's the last 4 episodes. And when it's done, you're like, yeah, this is done. But in that order, I like those films. And the rest of them, I'm not really going to rank so much, except to say that the Disney trilogy can get fucked. That's just bad filmmaking on every level.
Yeah, you're a braver man than me to rewatch them, Chris. That's just oof.
I'm not convinced that Chris dislikes them.
Well, he has the right to like him.
Sure.
They're still bad films. But that's the thing that people sometimes cannot get over, that you can like bad stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's another talk, I guess. Liking bad stuff and admitting that it's bad are two different things. But wait, Chris, despite liking the movies, would you consider them objectively good or mediocre, or
mediocre?
Are you like, this was? Are you like, I agree this was a garbage fire, but I enjoyed it kind of thing? Because I've seen lots of people take that stance. That
no, like, because they're. Well, we can get into it another time. I think there were 2 movies that I actually stood up and walked out of the theater with, whereas like, I thoroughly am not enjoying this. Goodbye. Or, those movies where no matter what happens, when you put it on, I will fall asleep to it no matter what. And it just happens. I didn't fall asleep during Star Wars, and I did not fall out of interest into what's happening. So therefore, I've made it through the movie. So far, so good. And then looking at other smaller aspects of it as like what's happening, what are they doing, does it have A, B, and C? I was entertained. And so at a very base level, I was entertained, so I'm okay with it.
Are you not entertained?
But that is true. Like, look, I'm just going to be very frank here. I am studying Japanese. Meaning that I also have to read the language. I have to indulge myself with the language, using the language, etc., etc. Japanese puts me to sleep. Every time I try to read a newspaper or an article, I fall asleep. And even when I'm really interested in trying to read a story, it'll keep my interest, but I will start falling asleep. There is something inherently bad about being interested in something and falling asleep and becoming disinterested in it completely. Whereas there's some part of the execution was bad, but I'm still following this. I'm still wanting to know what's happening. So I'm at a very base level, I'm entertained. Why or how? If it's like a garbage fire and I want to see how bad it can get, then yeah, I'm entertained for that bad reason. Star Wars was not that reason for me. It just wasn't that reason for me. It wasn't that bad to me.
I guess as much as we should get into it in another episode, I felt Star Wars was a little anti-consumer. Like, as much as I'll admit that I enjoyed to ride parts of it anyway, like while watching it, and I'd enjoy it watching it, and then once the lights go on, I'd be like, wow, that was a horrible movie, but not bad to the. I think the only movie I remember walking out on was Transformers 2 or 3, or they all blend together. But one of my favorite stories. We walked in the movie, like, already there was nothing else running in cinemas that was good at that time, and I clearly remember the toaster farted, like the stuff was happening and the toaster transforms, and the toaster starts running around the house and has a little fart and there's a little fireball. And we just got up and left. We were like, no, we're not doing this to ourselves. But on that scale, yeah, Star Wars wasn't that bad. Not walk up and leave bad, but I still feel that coming outside of the cinema, I feel that movie just did not respect me as a viewer. But then again, that's maybe another can of worms.
Actually, that's a very interesting point. And yeah, that's what I feel. It's not that I was being told a story by a silly person. It's that the person looked at me and said I was a silly person, that I would enjoy this story. The assumption there is insulting. And I feel that Lucasfilm at this point, or I want to say Kathleen Kennedy, because everything she touches seems to turn to shit. And everything she's not involved in is at least doable. And specifically Mandalorian and Clone Wars seem to be doable. To when it's good, it's really fucking good.
Was she involved with Rogue One at all, or she get the other outliner then?
She was. Huh. And I think that was kind of the end of it. After episode 7 and then Rogue One, she kind of fell off. It all started to crumble when episode 8 came out. And directly after episode 8 was Solo. And at that point, they're just crashing and burning as a franchise. But
Solo, my God.
Yeah. But basically, I feel that she has a lot of contempt for the people she's trying to sell film to. And she has a lot of anger and a lot of misplaced hostility, I think. Because watching episode 7, I was entertained. It was, as my mother put it, it was fun up until they shot Han, until Han Solo died. But beyond that, everything on film is like, wait a minute. So this is the third Death Star that we're dealing with here, and okay, this is another trench run. Okay, this new hero is fine. I like her. I don't have any problems with it. Okay, she's got some mystery to her story. Tell me more. The next film, it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't quite make sense. What the fuck is this? And in the last movie, it wasn't a dumpster fire. It shit the bed and then lit the bed on fire. It was just, it made absolutely no sense. It should have been split into 2 films. It should have been a much longer film, and it should have been without those characters.
Honestly, like on a certain level, there is an appeal to the trilogy, just the sheer disjointedness of it all.
Oh, Oscar, that's so kind.
The fact that it's like it's still, there's a lot of budget in the CG and everything, yet no one knows what the fuck they're doing, makes it a unique experience at best. But if only it wasn't Star Wars, I suppose, because it does feel they're taking a piss, and the whole, I'm not sure what the Trekkie equivalent of a Star Wars fan is, but
well, interestingly, Star Trek is also in ruins.
Mm.
And you know who's behind that?
James Cameron?
Nope.
Catherine,
No.
What's her name?
Nope.
Quentin Tarantino? I don't know.
Actually, Quentin Tarantino, they talked about him doing a Star Trek recently, but no, not him. Same guy who directed Star Wars, the episode 7. J.J. Abrams. Yeah, J.J. Abrams does. He has Bad Robot, but there was another offshoot of that called Secret Hideout.
What are these names of movies or?
No, production company.
TV show.
Okay.
Well, that Bad Robot. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, at the end of Star Wars, there's the Bad Robot logo because J.J. Abrams is in that. But he also directed the Star Trek movies. In fact, when he was directing Star Trek, they pulled him over to Star Wars. So he directed 1 and 2, but not 3. And they just got worse and worse as they went along. And the first one was fun, kind of like the first Star Wars and the Disney trilogy was fun, but the second one was god fucking awful.
I feel that the first Star Trek, I liked it, but I almost feel like it was written for someone like me, because I hadn't really seen any of the Star Trek. I just knew like the reference from, how do you call that, cultural osmosis or
yeah.
I'm using that big word, right? Because they do like the con thing or whatever. I'm like, that's a Star Trek thing I know.
That's not the first one. That's the second one.
Is that the second one? Oh.
Yeah, and that's the one that was really, really bad. Because like when what's his name, Colonel Humperdinck, says, "My name is Khan," and he's all like gravitas to the max. The reaction should have been like, "Who? we don't know who Khan is. But I mean, that they say in the movie, like, oh, the audience knows, so the characters must know. And it's just, it doesn't make sense. And so it's kind of the same sort of nonsensical fuckery that I saw in Star Wars. And I'm sure I'll see it with J.J. Abrams' next project, whatever it is.
Because we're not going to vote with our wallets ever now, are we?
Look, I'll go to a Star Wars and I'll watch it a bunch of times. I'm fine with that. But this last one, once was enough. And I think a lot of people said once is enough. And at a certain point, you just can't watch that shit anymore.
I'd argue that once was too many for some of the stuff in there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to a certain extent, sorry, Chris.
No, it's all good.
to a certain extent, you, Oscar, are the type of person who will just say, you know what, I've seen Star Wars before and I'm not entertained. I think I'll spend my time elsewhere. And that's where they really start to lose. Like, I mean, the completist in me had to see episode 9. But once I saw it and I knew what a disaster it was, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't ever need to see that shit again. And really, I haven't, aside from the first 10 minutes. I just cannot bring myself to watch those scenes. They fly now. I'm sorry, I'm just so fucking done.
Who flies?
Stormtroopers in the middle of the movie.
Oh.
Yeah, that was dumb fucking lines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I do remember they had like a snappy line every choreographed 2 minutes or something. It's man.
Yeah, that was one of their snappier ones. Anyway.
I guess I was successful in blotting that one out, but it's back now.
Yeah, to circle back and wrap it up.
Yeah.
Clone Wars, last 4 episodes, just watch it. It's good. If you want to watch the other stuff, at your own peril.
I'll probably try to watch it all, see what it's like. But yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I won't be the "Are we done" guy anymore. So someone else say it.
That's it for the show. We're done. Our mega 2-hour show.
Yes, we are.
Make sure to follow us on social media. You can find those in the links below the video or the podcast. Also check out our Instagrams and other services such as Patreon or Gumroad in order to support us. If you have any questions, there is the email as well. Make sure you hit us up on the email, give us your questions or queries, things you want us to discuss. Otherwise, you've been attacked. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Deuces.